Hi, freaky friends. This is Colleen.
And this is Margaret. And we're the Cousins
Weird. And we're virtual because life is busy. And sometimes to get things done, this is what we do.
Yep.
And I'm not even lying to you right now when I'm telling you I'm sitting in my bathroom recording because my dogs bark and it's the only peaceful place I can be.
I can hear them.
Yeah. That's sad that you can still hear them, yet this is the most peaceful place I can be.
At?
Nothing. Just barking because I'm not with them. But I can't be with them because then they bark then too, and it's even louder. So it's a whole thing. You know, I love them dearly, but they are not things you want around when you're trying to record a podcast.
I have a purring kitty on my lap.
Well, that's way less annoying than nonstop barking that these two are doing. So I apologize in advance if you hear barking in the background. I'll try my best to edit it out.
It's so funny though. I think you should just leave it in. It's not that loud. It's just like
it's annoying, and I'm like, it at a point it starts to fill me with rage. Like I'm just, oh my god, like I want to strangle them. Like what? So I have to sit in my bathroom to record that. Hopefully it turns out okay with me sitting in my bathroom. Maybe it'll sound better.
Oh my god, I'm like so happy it's November. Don't get me wrong, I love October. I love spooky month. But holy shit, I had so much stuff going on last month that I hardly had any days to like myself, and I'm just like
relieved.
Yeah, and I've been like, now I'm in my busy, like November is really busy for me because people are using gift cards they got last year for Christmas. Yeah. And it's just like, I think November people have a little more time, like up until Thanksgiving, and then that's like their cutoff. Right. You know, I actually was pretty busy the last couple of weeks at work too. Like October was busy at work, I was busy personally, and now I'm busy at work, but I'm not busy personally but you know, the exception to that is my middle daughter is in the play at school. So the play is next weekend. So this week and all next week they're practicing like every day.
Oh, right.
And so
extra stuff
like I can't, and because it's a school night, I don't want the kids, like my husband works till 7. So like I don't want to be out after, like she gets off the bus at 5. I actually go pick her up, otherwise she's gonna be on the late bus. I mean, she wouldn't be getting home until like after 6, and that's a lot for it's like to be at school that long and then on the bus and then
I know
get home, and she, you know, it's just like I like to pick her up. And so like today we made plans to meet, and I'm like, Colleen, my son's working, he got done at 3. Ruby gets off the bus at 3, so I had to wait until she got off the bus. Then I had to go pick Jackson up. Then I had to come home and immediately go pick Ruby up. I did get those things for you at Spirit Halloween.
Oh, yay. Just let me know how much I owe you.
The only thing they didn't have was a straw cup.
Wow. Cool.
I got myself something.
Nice. We had a clogged tub. Our tub has been clogged for several days, and it's been nonstop trying to deal with that. Taking a horse bath and bathing in the sink for like a couple days here. And this morning I took the morning off from work, and I was like, we're getting this done. And it defeated us at first, and Rich is like, let's just call a plumber. I'm like, I don't want to do it. And then I was like, remembered who my father was. Russell Maine. I am his daughter. I will not let this defeat me. So I shoved a sock in the overflow pipe, shoved a sock in there, so sealed it off, and I plunged the hell out of it. And you guess what? Guess who fixed the tub? This girl right here. I now add plumber to the list of things that I can do. So my dad can fix anything. And I was like, nope. I'm my father's daughter. I can do this. And I did it. I was so happy.
Ruben's like that too. Like, even to the point where my steamer stopped working at work. It stopped heating. Like, it would turn on, the just heating element wouldn't get hot. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I brought it home, and I'm like, hey, Ruben, my steamer. He's like, it's probably nothing I could do. So I'm like, great. And then he's like, oh, I fixed your steamer like a couple weeks later. I'm like, what? I thought you said. He goes, no, I actually looked at it and I fixed it. I love him.
Yay. Well, my dad usually can fix anything, but he doesn't, he doesn't feel good. He can't. Right. His health, he can't do that stuff anymore. And So I never realized the amount. I've been doing a lot more things where I just kind of figured it out, or he tells me and I can do it. I'm like, oh, I can do these things myself. This is awesome. But he's actually having a lot of good days recently, so that's
That's
really good.
good.
Yeah.
Should I share my Ruby story that
Oh yeah, this is funny. Yeah.
So my youngest is 6 and my middle child had just turned 9, so they're in first grade and fourth grade. And I had to go pick, I just talked about this, I had to go pick Evie up from school, and Ruby went with me. And we get home, and like she's basically had been in the car and then in the mall and then in the car, and then we get home and Evie had a bunch of stuff she's trying to bring in the house, and she's yelling at Ruby, Ruby, stop. You have to help me. And Ruby goes, I can't help you right now. I have to hold my crotch. I'm like, what? And Evie goes, well, why do you have to hold your crotch? She's like, because I have to pee. So I get out of the car and she's literally standing in the driveway, like holding herself with one hand and all this shit she had, her backpack and her bag and all this other stuff in the other hand, holding herself like prancing. I'm like, go inside and go to the bathroom.
Oh, that's so
No,
funny.
she could have just said, I can't, I have to pee.
Yeah,
no, I have to
hold
I
my
can't.
crotch.
I can't carry your stuff because I have to hold my crotch. Yeah. And then I immediately had to share the story with everybody I know. So, because it was funny and I
It's hysterical.
needed to share the laughter. Oh, man. I have to hold my crotch.
The things they say. Oh,
no,
it's funny.
They're fun to have around.
Yes, they're good for stories, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so this week I'm talking about the Rolling Hills Asylum.
Ooh.
Because I like spooky stuff, and I have a thing about the history of asylums in our country, and this one actually was established as a poorhouse. So this was in 1827, and poorhouses or workhouses were government-run facilities that provided support for people that were in poverty or couldn't care for themselves. It was considered a work farm, so anyone that was able-bodied to work had to like man the fields, do the housekeeping, care for other staff, that kind of thing. And the rules in these places were super strict, and there wasn't much accommodations. So, like, if you could work, you were worked, basically.
So
And
you died.
yeah, this type of facility was really the norm in America until the Social Security Act of 1935. And they basically kind of disappeared completely, other than a few left in the 50s. And like now, today, we have like subsidized housing and public assistance and things that help people. But this was a totally different way of doing it, which was like kind of evil. Like they considered poor people like their moral, like they're have like some kind of morality flaw, and the only way to fix them and cure them is to work them. And they basically punished you for being poor.
Oh, if you're poor,
Which
it
is
means God's punishing you for something.
yeah,
That's like
yeah,
isn't that make you want to puke?
yes.
My
Um,
God.
and so in the 19th and 20th century, this was the reality for a lot of the most vulnerable people in our country. Were either, I mean, but even before this, they were selling them like slaves, basically, and they had to work off their living, their wages or they had to work off what they bought them for, basically.
Like what
And
indentured servantry.
yes,
Or
yeah, same
servitude.
idea. And it's very much like that. People would send family members to there. If you got caught doing anything because you're poor, like stealing food or something, you got sent to the poorhouse. If you were a widow or an orphan, you got sent to the poorhouse. Like you just got sent to the poorhouse for about everything. They controlled what you wore, what you did for work, and how you could act. So like super strict rules. You basically had a uniform you had to wear every day. No one had any of their own personal things. You had nothing. You owned nothing. You had nothing. You were just like a number to work. That was about it. So the Rolling Hills Asylum was originally called the Genesee County Poorhouse. They chose a brick building that was an old
What
stagecoach.
state?
It's in New York. They chose a brick building that was an old stagecoach tavern as their location, and it's located at Bethany Center Road in East Bethany, New York. It still stands to this day. They chose that spot because it was a farm, it was a rural area, and it was considered geographically the center of the county. So everyone in the county that got sent there, and they like to scare people with like, you better work hard or you're going to end up in the poorhouse. And no one wanted to end up in the poorhouse. They wanted to have things and live their life the way they wanted to.
Right.
So when they opened their doors in 1827, the Batavia Times, which is a local newspaper, wrote this. I'm going to read what they said. Notice is hereby given that the Genesee County Poorhouse will be ready for reception of paupers on the first day of January 1827. The overseers of the poor of several towns, because there was technically a title called the Overseers of the Poor, of several towns of the county of Genesee are requested in all cases of removal of paupers to the county poorhouse. So basically they are telling them, you have to gather all your poor people and send them here. Send them with their clothing, beds, bedding, and such other articles belongings to the paupers as they may be necessary and useful to them.
Paupers means like people who are beggars who don't have a place to live, right?
Yeah.
You're talking like homeless people.
Homeless people. Yeah. Or people that couldn't afford their rent and like they weren't paying things they're supposed to, or they're stealing, things like that. And here's the following people were considered eligible for the poorhouse: habitual drunkards, lunatics, one by disease, grief, or accident lost the use of reason, or from old age, sickness, or weakness, was also a weak mind, as it's incapable of governing or managing their own affairs. Paupers, a person with no means or income. State paupers, if you were called a state pauper, you had a disability, basically. So you're lame, blind, anything that prevent you from working like manual labor, because basically that's what everyone did, or you're some sort of vagrant. All those people were considered people that would end up in the poorhouse. But they also sent, like I said, widows would be sent there, and orphans. So these people weren't people that necessarily were poor, they just couldn't care for themselves, because women were allowed to do much for themselves. And if they didn't get an inheritance when their husband died, or some kind of financial means, they ended up in the poorhouse because no one could care for them because they couldn't go to work. Everyone that lived in the poorhouse were called inmates. It didn't matter the reason why they were there. So you can imagine how it was basically like a prison. You were sent to prison because you couldn't take care of yourself, which is terrible.
It is terrible.
Yeah. In 1828, they constructed a stone building that attached to the original poorhouse for the housing of lunatics and the poor who committed misconduct. So anyone that was arrested that was poor, or anyone that was basically a criminally insane, were put here. So you have these widows and young children living in the same places with people that were considered criminally insane. The poorhouse, the farm, was self-sufficient working farm. It had 200 acres, because the inmates, or the people living there, were caring for everything. They cared for the farm, they did all the work. So they were self-sufficient. But they also, in addition to being self-sufficient, they also made things and sold them to balance and offset the cost of living. So people were making money off them, basically. They raised meat, draft horses, fruits and veggies, they canned goods. There was a bakery, and there was even a wood shop on the premises that made coffins for the people that died there, and to sell to the local places. Yeah. Grounds looked like that of a reformatory. Over 1,700 people were recorded to have died there, but they know there was hundreds that were never documented. So 1,700 were documented, but they know there was way more than that. There is a record that there is a cemetery somewhere on site, but nature kind of has taken over, and they were really unmarked graves. They had some that they find stones crumbled here and there, but there's no real record of the location of this cemetery. In 2004, 5 headstones from 1887 to 1888 were discovered. And so the Genesee County, in their park, Genesee County Park, they put up a memorial dedicated to all those that died in the asylum, because they felt like it didn't matter why they were in there. These were people, and they died, and they should be remembered they were human beings that lived on this earth. Just because they're poor doesn't mean they don't deserve to be treated that way. In 1938, an infirmary was added to the property. And by the 60s, it became a nursing home. Because, like I said, they turned over when the Social Security Act came into play in the 1935. These were shutting down the poorhouses because they were adding better and more humane assistance for people that needed help. And then, in the 60s, it became a nursing home. But in 1974, it shut its doors due to terrible conditions inside, including lack of water. So there was no water in there, so they couldn't really have
nice.
elderly living there. It sat empty for 10 years, and there was a bunch of private owners that bought it over time. There was part of it was turned into a museum at one point. They had craft stores in there and an antique mall. So it's been several things like have been housed inside it since then, but it just was run down. It's just a rundown. It started to get run down. People weren't caring for it. And then, obviously these older buildings that have a history like that hold energy, and people, rumors and people started talking about paranormal activity. So ghost hunting groups started going there. And in 2008, her name is Sharon Coyle, and she visited with her ghost hunting group and spent a few days there. And she says that she experienced many amazing paranormal activity, and she really found a connection to the place. And she just thought it was such a cool place with this history that people just didn't know about. And she thought that was sad. And a year later, when she was there, she discovered that they were closing the doors to the property forever. Like the county was like, we're not caring for this anymore. No one wants it. It's abandoned. We're going to just probably destroy it. And she was like, no, this can't happen. There's too much history. There's people that lived their whole lives and died here. I can't let this happen. But she didn't have the money to buy it. And then it went on to being auctioned off, and she thought, oh, I can get it. But she didn't. Wasn't able to give them. No one else showed up but her, but they still wanted more than what she could offer for it. So some time passed, and the county called her up and was like, okay, no one else wants this. So we'll make a deal with you. And they did so. And then on October 25th, 2009, she became the private owner. The place is considered the second most haunted place in the US. And like we say all the time, like everything's called the most haunted or the second most haunted. So it's really hard to, who's governing that? I don't know.
Yeah.
They say it houses over 200 ghosts. And Sharon says that she knows the names of 25 to 30 of them. And her favorite ghost is named Roy. And Roy was a resident with gigantism. There we go. That's the word. His face was deformed, and he had oversized hands and feet. And
isn't that what Andre the Giant had?
Yeah. And this guy had extreme gigantism.
This place is in between Rochester and Buffalo.
Yes. And I'm going to Buffalo next weekend, and I might have to swing by there.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about the place now and what it's like, but
looks like it's right off Route 20.
So Roy was over 7 feet tall.
Yikes.
And they say that he was the son of a wealthy banker in New York. But because he had the gigantism, like this family was embarrassed of him.
Aww.
And this happened a lot. Like that's why people that had Down syndrome got put into asylums and things, because their family didn't want to care for them. This is in the 1800s.
Sad.
It's so sad. He was sent to live there at the age of 12. He lived there until he died at age 62. So he spent his whole life in this asylum. But he was said to have been a gentle giant, and that he was very nice. Everyone loved him, and he enjoyed opera music. Sharon, the owner, says when just a few months after moving in to the asylum, when she bought it, she saw this rat in the infirmary, and she like screamed and ran because she's like, rat, and she just took off. And she says the next day the rat was dead and blood was oozing from its mouth, and it was laying on the stairs like it was given to her as a gift. And above the rat on the wall was a giant bloody handprint. And she says Roy saw how scared she was about the rat that he took care of it for her. So that's her story about that. Another infamous person in the asylum is, apparently there was this nurse named Nurse Emmy, and she was known to be cruel. the inmates and the staff both feared her. They didn't want to be around her, and they even had rumors that she performed like satanic rituals on the inmates. I mean, again, this is all this like passed down oral history of the place.
Yeah. That's
But
how you know someone was really bad, if they did satanic rituals.
yes,
That's how
but
you determine the badness of an individual.
it says when you go into the infirmary, you can hear her cackling laugh in the hallways, which,
Ooh, I don't like that.
ew.
Uh-uh.
There are several hot spots throughout the building. One is Hattie's room. On the first floor, the east wing, the ghost hunters have captured EVPs of a woman, an older woman's voice yelling hello. And this is the room that's said to have belonged to an elderly inmate, which is what they called him. Her name was Hattie. She was blind, and she would yell hello all the time to get the attention of the staff. So again, like that energy is still there of that
Yeah.
little old lady yelling hello, and you can still hear it in that room. On the second floor was the men's dormitory, and this is where this creeps me out the most, I think. It's known as Shadow Hallway. People visiting say that they see shadows moving around this hallway a lot. Sharon says that sometimes they're in a form that looks like a human, and other time they're like a weird shaped blob, like there's no form to it, but it's moving. They say they see them as from light gray to pitch black, as have been described, of the different shadows they've seen. They'll come out from doorways and walk across a hall, peek out of doorways. But this is this is the worst part. They said that they can be seen crawling across the floor,
No.
and she specifically says it's really creepy because a lot of times people will sit in the hallway, during their hunts, and they want to, record stuff, so they're setting equipment up, they're sitting there, and it'll come crawling right towards you while you're sitting down. No,
No
that's horrifying.
thanks. That's terrifying. I don't want any weird things crawling towards me.
No.
No.
There's a part in the basement that's still there that's a small room. It has iron braces on the wall, and they feel like this was for like maybe people that were unruly or the solitary confinement. And Sharon says, like, back then, people that had like epilepsy, things like that, would be locked into this cellar. This is like just out of history in itself, not necessarily proof in this place, but typical places like this would lock people that had seizures, or maybe they were autistic and they didn't know what autism was then, or they had tics or anything like that. They would be locked up because they couldn't control themselves, quote unquote,
Ugh.
or they were unruly, and they'd lock them in these basements against on the wall. Like, what other reason would they have that down there unless they were locking people in it? Another really hot spot is obviously the morgue. Morgues are always creepy all on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, they just are. In there is still the large embalming table, two large refrigerators, and a giant steel sink. It's
Ugh.
said that items move on their own. You can hear disembodied voices, and several visitors say they've been shoved to the tile floor. So there's some malevolent little ghosties in there, I guess. There's some stories on their website, the Rolling Hills website, and I was just going to pull up. So this is a longer one. In 1998, this man or this woman and her fiance, who is now her husband, they had an herb shop called Raven's Nest in the room across from the little restaurant. Now they were in there when there was like a little antique mall. A grandson of someone offered to take us upstairs when I told him about the noises I was hearing. And I kept seeing a woman in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform walking past our shop door. When I would look down the hall, she would be gone, but you can hear her shoes squeaking. We went upstairs, and the owners had taken all the doors off and laid them inside the rooms. My husband and the boy were walking beside me. I have been psychic since I fell 6 feet onto concrete, splitting my head open. Creepy. I was hearing low murmuring. As we walked past the rooms, one at a time, you could hear the doors slam shut. Again, the doors were not attached to they were laying down. The boys were walking very fast at this point, but I saw movement from the corner of my eye, and I stopped in front of one room and saw an old metal tub with a high back. An elderly man sitting there in the steaming hot water, eyes closed and skin bright red. The woman in white that had been seeing was leaning over him with a strange smile on her face. Everything happened very fast. The vision was gone, replaced by a room with rubble about on the floor. I never saw the woman in front of our shop again. I did also hear murmuring, squeaking of wheels, and children laughing. I seem to draw spirits to me if they are around, maybe because they know I can hear them. It's good to know that this building and its history will be taken care of. But there's a lot of stories. If you go to the Rolling Hills website, you can read all the different stories that people have posted to their site. There's also stories about Chris Fleming experience. He's a psychic medium, and he talks about his experience there and what he felt and saw.
Fun.
Yeah, kind of cool. And there's like a YouTube thing about it. Anyway, they have ghost tours you can go on, and tours like self-guided, and then they'll have like guides to take you around. The building is 4-story brick structure. It has some broken windows, and this roof isn't great anymore. You can look up pictures online, we'll share them, but it really looks like an institution, like what you would envision an asylum to look like.
Yeah.
It's been featured on the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Challenge, as well as Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters, and the FX American Horror Story Asylum special webisode was filmed there. Get Committed in the Asylum. So I didn't even know there was a special webisode, but I'm gonna have to look that up. Did you know that the Asylum had a special webisode?
I liked that one, that series.
Oh, I loved the Asylum. It was my favorite.
I liked the witch one a lot too. Coven.
Coven was good.
I actually Hotel. I watched them religiously until Hotel, and I watched the first episode of Hotel, and I didn't want to watch any more of it. It just was not.
Really, I loved that. I loved Hotel.
And I just like, well, I'm gonna give it another chance, and I watched episode 1, and I'm just like, I have no desire to watch the next one, like the next episode, and I don't know why, because it's vampires, and I love vampires.
It was really good.
I just am like,
because like stories from that are based off the Hotel Cecil.
Figured.
Yeah.
But the next season was Roanoke, and that one I skipped, and I just started watching Roanoke, and I liked that one.
Oh, I hated Roanoke.
But it's probably because I did that research on Roanoke, so it's kind of like, ooh. So it's not really.
They also host special events throughout the year. They'll have like on a Friday night, like throughout the year, they'll have special horror films that you can watch while you're in the asylum. So they'll like host horror films. And on like Halloween, you can attend a special tour through the building. The lady who owns it now, like really, embraces the haunt part of it. And like people come and like do their, ghost hunting there. They bring their equipment. It's pretty cool. I definitely want to check it out because I'm going to be in Buffalo next weekend. And I'm like, oh, that's what we're going to do. We're totally going to that place. Even if I can't go inside, I'm going to take pictures of it because I have to go feel it. I want to feel what it feels like around there.
What are you doing in Buffalo?
Rich bought me tickets to see the Bruins play.
Nice.
They're playing the Sabres, so I'm really excited about it. And then on the 20th, we're going back because Lee for Christmas gave us tickets to go see the Bills play the Browns. So
yes, because that's Richard's team.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lee
so that'll
be
exciting. Nope, he let us have the tickets.
Have you become a Bills fan, Colleen?
I've got sucked into the Bills mafia. They sucked me right in. I'm surrounded by Bills fans, and I couldn't. And I'm like, woohoo! It's the craziest. You can't beat them. You join them. I've never been so sucked into something before in my life.
People from Buffalo are like, I don't know. They all are like, oh, from what is their zip code?
71. Well, their area code 716.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's from the 716, and it's just like they all do that.
Yeah.
It's just funny, and I'm like, that's a Buffalo thing. Like that's like, oh, I got it in the 716, and it makes me giggle. Like
it's funny.
And if I didn't know Trish and Judy, I would not know that.
Right.
That they do that. Like that's how I know that. But they all do it. Like online, it's like, oh,
now you're seeing it everywhere, right?
And I'm like, oh my god, that's what that is. It's a Buffalo thing. It's a Buffalo Bills thing. Maybe it's not the Buffalo Bills. It's just a Buffalo in general thing.
Yeah, but if you live in Buffalo, you like the Bills, so there's no.
You have to. It's like if you don't like the Bills, you have to move. They will make you move away.
They kick you out.
Not a Bills fan. Yeah.
And I've never cared about football ever in my life. Like hockey's my sport, but I've got sucked into it. Like, I'm like, Josh Allen, I love him. Oh my God, he's the best thing that ever happened. I'm like, woo!
I wish
I'm
they
like,
aired
woo, am I?
roller derby bouts on TV. So, because I can't get my roller derby fix, I should turn to
Right.
hockey because it's similar, even though it's not
Well, you get a lot
girls.
of fights.
But
They
it's
get
fun when
in
it's
fights.
girls doing it because it's like girl power and it makes you
Hey, I'm
feel
all
like,
for it.
yeah, it makes you just feel empowered. And I'm like, I want to watch girls knock each other down on roller skates because it's fun
I love it when they fight.
too.
But
I really should start watching hockey because I've been to a couple hockey games and I really enjoyed it. It was
oh,
fun.
it's so fun. Hockey's fantastic, exciting all the
It's
time.
very fast.
Yes, fast paced,
Not like
and
football where it's like
there's a lot of
second
slowness.
down and then there's lots of wandering around and
I like
talking
to
and flashing hand signals. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Why are
I
they
like
not
to just
playing?
cheer when something happens, like woo, and then I basically zone out and to do something else.
But I was like, oh, there's only 5 minutes left in the game, and it's like 30 minutes
35
later. I thought it
yes.
was 5 minutes. It's been 30. I remember
I
that
don't
was when I was a
understand any of
kid. I'm
that.
like, I don't understand. It's the longest
I
5
still
minutes.
don't understand. I just got sucked into that cult, and it's kind of fun, just to woohoo and wear the
I
T-shirt.
know
You know,
it was fun when we were at the cottage and they were watching it, and it was fun to watch them.
yeah, it was fun because they were excited. You get sucked right into it. I love watching sports live anyway. I'll watch any sport, anything live, music,
Not live
sport.
TV, live in person.
Yes, live in person. Like in the energy you feel is the coolest part. Like when you go see a live performance of any kind or a live sporting event, like the energy
Mm-hmm.
you feel of all the other people, the camaraderie, the like when we went to see Trixie and Katya, that was awesome because it was just like all these people there loving the same thing.
It's funny. I
And
liked them before, but after watching them live, I'm obsessed. And I've been watching Trixie's YouTube channel, and
yeah,
she occasionally will watch. She's like, "Oh my god, this is from when I first started doing YouTube, and they were like 19 years old." And I'm like, "Oh my god, he's
I
freaking
know.
adorable." And it's like,
So
that
cute.
is not him.
I
It's
know
not him.
he's
He's like,
so cute.
he's talking about how he's doing eyeshadow and it's trash. It's just
Yeah, he always making fun of himself.
like, oh my god, what was I thinking? Of course, glitters from Claire's. They had it going on with glitter.
I love it when she like screams at like when she sees
Yeah,
something
it's
and
so
starts
much
laughing.
fun.
So stinking cute. They're the cutest.
I
Trixie and
love
Katya are the
them.
cutest. And if you don't
I
know who
love
they
them so
are and
much.
you're listening to this, go Google them. Do yourself a favor. They're the best.
They are so much fun.
And I just went to a local drag brunch here in town. They did a benefit for Planned Parenthood. It was so fun. It was brunch at Garland City, and the food was amazing. The queens were amazing. Everyone there was like having a great time. It was a good time.
I finally got in touch with the people from the library, and I'm doing a learn to crochet class on
Yay!
January 7th, and it's free, and it's only about 10 people can come. So if you want to learn how to crochet and you live in the Watertown or surrounding areas, check it out in January.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So, if you think we're awesome and you want to follow us on the socials, you should totally do that because we're going to share pictures from this episode, and we share, cool stuff that we find online. Sometimes funny things too, because we have a more morbid sense of humor. And if
Huh?
you have that too, you want to follow us. So it's the Cousins Weird on Facebook. We're on Instagram and we're on YouTube.
If you want to reach out to us, you can send us an email at thecousinsweird@gmail.com, or you can send us a direct message through Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, if you're liking us on Instagram and Facebook, we share our episodes right on there, so you're able to see them right away. But you want to subscribe to your best platform. And do you know subscribing's free? You can subscribe to us, and you'll always know when we have an episode, and it doesn't cost you a penny.
It does help us though.
And it does
And
help us.
especially you can subscribe and you can relate, you can turn your little notification on so that you know when new episodes drop, and you can give us a rating.
Yeah, that's the best way to support our podcast.
Yes.
If you wanted to donate financially to our podcast, you can support us through patreon.com, the cousins weird, black / the cousins weird. As a freaky friend, it's only $1 a month and you get bonus episodes and a sticker. If you wanted to jump right into Terrible Trender, that's $5 a month. Still a good bargain if you ask me, because you get the same things you do for freaky friends. We also get a yearly gift, ad-free episodes, and then a monthly chat with us and other Patreons. So that's exciting
Through
and fun.
Skype.
Yeah, right in here in Skype. This is
Yeah.
how we do our virtual recordings. I think that's it.
Stay freaky.
Bye.
Bye.